Working. Okay, I see that we are live.
Hello.
Great. Let me see if everything's working on the other end. I think so. Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody to the Slow F.I. series. Slow F.I. series is a casual fireside chat series here on YouTube featuring.
Fantastic.
Well, welcome everybody to the Slow. Sorry, I can hear myself from the other tab. Anyway, featuring members from the FIRE community with an emphasis on Slow F.I. And if you don't know what FIRE stands for, it stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And Slow F.I. is like a subculture within the FIRE movement. And my goal with this series is to inform and inspire others to understand and achieve Slow F.I. So I'm Anita from the Retired Millennial, and I document my journey to financial independence, and also have been mainly documenting my flipping journey on YouTube. And today I'm excited to have Dannielle from First Gen Money here on the series. We are kicking this off with her, so I'd love for Dannielle to introduce herself.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Dannielle from First Gen Money, and I also have a YouTube channel where I talk about really all of the money things that come up when you're first gen. So that's like, how do you start investing? How do you have money conversations with your partner or your parents? How do you set boundaries? And also on the road to financial independence, which is why I'm on here today. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Great. And thank you so much again for being here with us. I was particularly excited to have you here because I actually heard of Slow F.I. through your YouTube channel. So I was listening to one of your YouTube channels. You mentioned Slow F.I., you mentioned the Pioneers. So after your video, I went and looked up what this was all about, read their manifesto, and realized that this basically provided the language that I have been trying to find to articulate my own journey in FIRE. So yeah, this series I hope will, further the dialogue with all things just Slow F.I. So thanks again for being here, and everyone please subscribe to Dannielle's channel. I've linked that in the description and also her handle for Instagram, so you can definitely follow her on there as well. That's how we met actually. So we'll start with some introduction questions and then move over to the FIRE specific questions, do some resource type things, and then open it up to Q&A if there's anybody that does have questions. And if you are rewatching this, you can always ask questions in the comments as well, or DM either of us. All right, so let's get to this first question. So if you had all of the money in the world, would you still be working in your industry or your line of work?
Yeah, so when I saw this question, I immediately thought, well, I would still want to do First Gen Money, and I'd still want to help people with their personal finance and, do money coaching. And then I was like, what about my 9 to 5? Would I still want to be within the industry that I am? And I think I definitely would, because I don't know what industry it falls in, but what my company does is supporting Black, Latinx, and Native Americans professionals get opportunities. So I'd still want to be serving that community in some aspect, whether it's through marketing. I'm not sure. I think more one-on-one and individual coaching, I think, is where I excel.
Amazing. Cool. And then what about, what do you love to spend your money on?
Yeah, so this question, I was asked recently in an interview with the Financial Diet, similar question like this. And I said something that I hadn't really, prepared for, but this time I'm going to say what I really like to spend money on, which is my professional development. It's taking courses, it's continuing to learn, whether it's how to become a better product marketer or how to start making an online course for First Gen Money. So things like that, I don't think twice about investing in, because I'm always going to have that knowledge, with the courses that I sign up with. I love to learn, and I'm always going to be a learner. So I would say that that's what I love to spend my money on.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely a great use of your money there. And the last question here is, what has been the most challenging thing you've ever done, like in your life? It could be any facet of your life, professionally, personally, however you choose to answer.
Yeah, this is hard. I don't know. I want to say that I do a lot of challenging things. Like I'm always pushing myself. I ran a marathon in 2019. I think physically that was probably the hardest thing and most challenging thing I had to do. But along with that was raising money for the organization I was running for. So it was, you need to raise $2,000 and also you have to run 26.2 miles. And so when I saw that in the email, I was like, I really always wanted to run a marathon, but I don't think I'm prepared to do it this year. And I almost didn't sign up, but I did. And I took the leap and I prepared for 9 months. I ran the marathon and I raised over the amount that we needed. And that was like the one thing I was scared about. I was like, will people donate? Will people donate or will I have to make up the difference? And people donated. So
Cool.
I think that was a challenge that I was not prepared for, but I went with it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for answering those questions. I think, yeah, it just helps us really like kind of get to know you as a person behind FIRE. But yeah, let's transition a little bit into kind of the FIRE world a little bit. And I'll start here with some definitions of both FIRE and slow FI. So one of the definitions of FIRE that I like to use is that it is a financial milestone where one has enough passive income to fund their life expenses so that they are no longer employment dependent. And then furthering that with slow FI is an alternative pathway to financial independence. And this is said by Jessica, which is one of the pioneers who coined slow FI, intentionally using financial freedom to build a life you love on the way to FI. So do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you said it greatly, and I think Jess from the Pioneers, like she has a whole blog post going into depth into like slow FI, and I think it would be such a great resource for everybody joining to go and read that.
Cool. And yeah, so we'll start the core questions here. So if you look up like FIRE on the internet, you'll see terms like frugality, extreme saving, even like penny pinching to describe the FIRE movement. And I would say that some of these might be like attributes of like FIRE purists. They can tend to be frugal with their spending. Personally, feel like slow FI like removes that element of frugality in your FIRE journey.
Yeah, you kind of broke up there, but I think you're asking if like the frugality aspect was removed when I discovered slow FI.
Yes.
So when I first discovered FIRE, it was definitely seeing all of that, like, okay, we're going to eat rice and beans. We're going to like not, we're going to live a certain way that I was not okay with. So when I discovered slow FI, I was also like you, like, okay, this is what I've been thinking about. This is what I've been like trying to live by, trying to still enjoy eating out and like going out to restaurants and not feeling like I needed to count every single dollar. I mean, I do track my expenses every day. Like that's something that I still do, but it's not because I'm trying to like deprive myself in order to reach like an 80% savings rate.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely something that kind of stood out to me from the slow FI manifesto was that it's not really about deprivation. Like they emphasize enjoying the journey as much as possible. And I feel like one of the ways to do that is like to spend money. It's not always to spend money, but it could be to spend money.
Right.
Yeah. So when did you first hear of FIRE and slow FI?
So I heard about them in different time periods. I heard about FIRE in 2017 when I was commuting into the city from New Jersey. So I had a very long commute and I was listening to a bunch of different podcasts. So I came across Choose FI, which is a pretty big like FIRE podcast. And all of the concepts they were talking about were stuff that I had never heard before. But something that really stood out to me was like, okay, you can retire before 65. You just need to like get started and start investing. So I didn't know much about investing then, but I knew I need to open a Roth IRA. And so like that was like the first decision that I made. And then SlowFi, it's really something that I came across last year. I don't know what I was reading, but somebody had linked back to their blog post, and I read the manifesto and I was like, this is what I needed. This is what I resonated with. And I used one of their calculators to really, track what my Coast Fire number was. And yeah, I've been reading their blog ever since, and I really enjoy their content because I resonated so much with that.
Cool. And so what attracted you to it the most? Like what line in their manifesto did you just like? Did your eyes just like open up, or did your jaw drop? Like what element of it really like
I
resonated?
think with the traditional like FIRE movement, we think about like 10 years of our life, 10 years of our life to like work hard, head down, like save as much as we can. And with what I was reading with the pioneers, what resonated to me was taking some time off, a sabbatical, to explore the things that you might enjoy. And for me, it's like potentially like going and taking a year off work to try to be a full-time entrepreneur and try to pursue first gen money in the capacity that I'm not able to right now. And so that really got me excited and got me thinking like, I don't need to have that like $1 million just yet to be able to implement this in my life, to be able to take time off to do something that's a little bit unconventional, in my own household, like leaving a comfortable job, a salary to like try to like do something yourself. So I think that was the thing that I most related to. And I know one of the bloggers, she took time off too to start and focus on her business, and now has like fully done that. And so that to me is something that I want to be able to try out.
Right. So what is your FIRE situation now? Like, is there, what milestones have you reached, or what is the next milestone that you are working towards?
Yeah, so I don't want to jinx it, but I am very close to hitting 100K net worth. Like so
Amazing.
close. I'm very close to that milestone, but also my next one that I'm really excited about is just like getting 100K in my investments, because 100K in my net worth includes my savings. And I don't consider that as like part of what I'm working towards. So it's getting 100K in my investments accounts. And I'm still about like 30K away. So I'm not that far, but
Yeah, you're super close. So what makes you excited about 100K?
I just think that I've seen that number float around all the time, but it's also the fact that I've never made 100K in my salary. And so the fact that I've been able to save and invest that much, it's just a testament to like my commitment to continue to contribute to these different accounts. And really most of that is just my retirement accounts, my Roth IRA, my 401k. I only started investing in 2017. And the fact that they've just like grown the amount that it has just makes me really excited.
Yeah, I think that's amazing that I'm on the same boat as you. Don't make 100K, but definitely have, saved and invested consistently to get to a point where, our portfolios have, out-earned our just any one annual, income year. So that's amazing what, just consistency can do. Is 100K your like Coast FI number?
No, it's not. My Coast FI number is around 275. So I still have a ways to go. The calculator says I have 10 years to reach it, but I'm definitely going to do it under 10 years. Like I'm aiming for like 30. So I have 3 years to go to hit this.
Right. And do you mind sharing with us some things that you've had to do to be able to reach these milestones? Like, is there is there some way that your life has changed? Like, what sacrifices have you had to make? Like, I
Yeah.
know we have to live on just beans and rice, or we can spend, but the reality is that if we're not making like an absurd amount of money, we are going to have to make some sacrifices. So, what are those sacrifices that you have made, or just
Yeah.
intentional decisions?
I just, I'm going to have a post about this tomorrow, but I also like spoke about this in my YouTube video for today, like the pillars of FIRE and financial independence. And the ones that I've really adhered to and implemented in my life is housing costs. And it's been a huge privilege to, one, like be able to move into my parents' basement when I graduated college and take advantage of like the 2 years that I was there to really like pay off my debt. And then, during the pandemic, my boyfriend and I were living in Brooklyn, and we decided, you know what, it makes more sense just to like go back to Jersey, go live in your mom's basement this time, and like save money. And so that one decision has been like huge over the past year, because I'm still fortunate that I've had a job this whole time and can still contribute to like my savings goals, and to an extent that I couldn't when my rent was, at least my half was almost 1,100. So it's definitely like been the one decision that's like made the biggest impact in my savings rate in the last year.
Yeah, housing is a huge one. Housing, transportation, food, and taxes. Like, if you can
Yes.
find a way to lower those, like, it'll definitely help you reach your milestones.
Yeah. And like, we don't obviously want to live in the basement forever. Like, that's not our goal, but it's like for our next housing situation, how can we continue to do it in a way that's like sustainable to the goals that we have, but, isn't depriving us of things. So like we eventually want to go back to Brooklyn, but like realistically, like what kind of apartment can we get for the budget that will allow me to continue to like max out my 401k and max out my Roth IRA? So those are things that we have to consider now as we think about the next stage and like where we live.
Yeah. So how would you say that you're implementing slow FI, or how do you plan to implement slow FI? Like, what makes your journey like slower than some people in the FIRE community?
Yeah, so I am thinking about taking a year-long sabbatical within the next year. So saving to put money into this account for my 1 year of trying to do first gen money full time. I think that's a little bit different because I do have extra money that I am putting towards a high yield savings account instead of investing it, because I intend on using that money in a year when I decide to take my sabbatical. So I think that's kind of one of the ways that I have implemented it, in thinking about like, it's okay if I'm not working full time and maxing out my Roth IRA or my 401k during this time period when I'm taking the year to really just be an entrepreneur. And I don't think I would have, I feel like there would have been a pressure to just like keep going until I hit my number before I knew about Slow F.I.R.E.
Right. Yeah. So I recently just asked some people on my Instagram stories, like how long they're planning on working their 9 to 5. Like, are they planning on working their 9 to 5 till they're FI, till they're Coast FI, till they're Barista FI, till their, maybe their FU money is met, whether they're undecided. I'm personally undecided. But a lot of people are planning on just kind of working straight through till they reach financial independence. And depending on your income and your savings and, life and whatever, like that could take up to 10 years, like we mentioned earlier. But yeah, so hopefully, conversations like this really give people the option, or just the realization that there is another way. Like, they don't have to just grind and hustle. Like, if they have our permission to take a year off and pursue something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you think that, and I don't think I asked this question, so feel free to take some time to think about it, but how do you think that somebody pursuing FIRE can also pursue slow FI?
I think, I mean, I don't think they're that dissimilar. I think you just need to realize that like you can take a breather, right? You don't have to like just like go, 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 go. And I think one of the ways that you can do this is thinking about your job. Are you in a situation that you really can't stand and that you really need out of it? What is your money situation right now? You might not be FIRE, but like, do you have something that can like hold you over until you find that next position if you really are in a toxic work environment? And I think a lot of us sometimes feel stuck, right? We feel stuck in the position that we're in, but if we really look at the numbers, are we stuck or are we choosing to be stuck? And I'm not trying to say that like, people who are stuck are, it's just in their imagination. It could very much be the case. But just like when I work with some of my clients and I say, okay, what are some of your money goals? And they're like, oh, I have so much debt. Like, I just want to start building wealth. And then I ask them to like open a personal capital and like check their net worth. And they realize that they're not negative. They're actually positive and they have thousands of dollars because they've continued to invest. And it's like a realization that like, oh, yeah, I have debt, but I also am not like at negative. Right. I'm not like at zero. I have something. And I think that's just like the switch that we need to remember.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so I know we've talked. I'm not going to go into detail into what every milestone is. Like, we'll talk about resources that we've found helpful later for people to look into. But I guess maybe if there was one I wanted to talk about was the FU fund, which sounds like is something that you're leveraging to be able to take that year off. Do you mind elaborating on how you're approaching your 1 year sabbatical? Like, do you have your FU money? Like, is it like a year of expenses that you have in your high yield savings account that's giving you this freedom to be able to, pursue first gen money?
Yeah, so it is something that I've been like looking up, like what's the difference between like FU money and like taking a year off. And for me, like I'm placing the sabbatical and that like savings into a different category. And I do plan on like not living in a basement when I go on the sabbatical. So I'm including rent and just like living under $800 a month, which is why I'm doing a August 800 or less challenge to see like, how can I really stick to this $800? And I want to save a year of that because I intend to be, doing this sabbatical for a year. So my goal is 1,800 each month times 12 is what I would need to be like, okay, I have enough for this 1 year sabbatical. And that doesn't obviously include the emergency fund.
Right. Okay. Amazing. So you have that padding there from the emergency fund.
Right.
And someone in the comments said, does FU stand for what I think it does? Yes. You can also think of it as just in case fund. You're a little more conservative. Yes. So let me just look through my questions. I'll ask one more from the FIRE question. So who do you think could benefit from slow FI?
I think everybody can benefit from it, but I think specifically like minority communities. I think that, we are always like working extra hard to like climb the ladder and just like get to where, we think we need to be. And maybe sometimes in environments that don't understand us and might be toxic. And so I think looking into FIRE, but also looking into slow FIRE to make it a more sustainable thing for you and your life. I think everybody can use this and have it to their benefit, because why not?
Yeah, and I've gotten some like genuine questions from people on Instagram, and they ask like, how can you invest 65% of your income? Like, and they like show me their numbers, and they say like, post tax, like I don't have that much money because they're not making like 100K a year. So that this also seems to be very accessible to people who are making less than $100,000 a year. It puts them on a path to financial independence, but like, they don't have to be burdened by, over 50%
right.
rate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I don't see any more questions related to the FIRE core questions. So we'll head. Actually, do you have any other? Did I miss anything related to FIRE that you wanted to add or slow FI?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, no, now I'm thinking somebody once did ask me, like, what is the difference between slow FI and like FIRE? Like, how do you really, like, what's the overlap or what's the difference? I have my answer, but do you want to give your answer first?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities, but the biggest difference is definitely like the pace that you're doing this at, right? And understanding if like you are enjoying your life along the journey. That's the big part of it, right? Like, are you hating are you hating your job? Are you hating like not going out and seeing friends because you're trying to reach this milestone of FIRE? And if you are like, I think slow FI really gives you that opportunity to say like, no, I want to maybe take a lower paying job because I enjoy that. And because I've kept my expenses somewhat low, my for expenses low, I've kept my housing costs low, I've kept my transportation costs low. So I actually do have the opportunity to take this pay cut. And I think that's the biggest difference. I think FIRE and people who are like really hardcore about getting the highest savings rate are more focused on like the highest paying job and like what's going to like benefit them to be able to increase their savings. And then I think people who are pursuing slow FI are more of like, but am I enjoying the life that I'm living? Because the truth is tomorrow is not guaranteed. And what's the point of saving all this money if you don't know if you're going to be here in a week or a year from now or see your FIRE number come to fruition? So I think it's about like really enjoying the process.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely have to plus one on that. Yeah, that's, before I heard of slow FI, I was all about like slow life. Like I declined like a six-figure job in the financial district of San Francisco because like lifestyle matters. Like I definitely am a lifestyle chaser. And I realized from starting FIRE, there's a lot of people that also are lifestyle chasers, but also, want to make some money moves as well, and
Yeah.
become financially independent. And you can have both. And I think like the mechanics are the same. Like the milestones are, have the same definitions. Like you're gonna, if you want to reach lean FI, you're gonna want to have enough for your essentials for the rest of your life. If you hit traditional FI, you're gonna want to have like all of your expenses be covered by your passive income. But I think one of the biggest differences is the mentality. I think like there's a mindset. Like you have like your FIRE purists on one end, and then maybe like your slow FI on the other.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I've noticed too is like when I first heard about FIRE, it was like very specific, like demographic, right? Like white software engineers. But now, like when we see more diversity coming into the space, I feel like that's why we need slow FI, because it's like we've realized like not everybody is making that much or has the opportunities to do what somebody who doesn't identify as a Latina or first gen can do. And so I think that that's really been like the big switch in the community. And just like being on Instagram and meeting other people on this journey has been amazing. Like meeting you, Anita, and just like a lot of other women who are pursuing FIREs is just great because it wasn't something that I saw in 2017.
Yeah, I definitely can see just, the available literature online. I feel like, it kind of starts with Mr. Money Mustache, and it's really like evolving and morphing. And I feel like as the community expands, so will the definition. Like I think as one person is added to the community, the definition changes just a little bit, or the way that it's like expressed changes just a bit. And it is complex, and it is, I think, misunderstood by a lot of people, even in the financial world. Like, Susie Orman hates it. I don't really think
Yeah.
she understands the nuances. Like my boyfriend always says, it's like people just like cover their ears and like just they hear retire, and then they just like don't want to hear anything else. But there's a lot of there's a lot of nuance to it,
Mhm.
right? But yeah, why don't we wrap it up with let's see, I have some outro questions here. So what are your like top FIRE and Slowify resources that you find to be the most informative and inspiring?
Yeah, I would say definitely choose F.I.R.E. It's the first podcast to fire that I came across. The Pioneers, we've been talking about them all night because, yeah, they definitely have a lot of resources from calculators to interviews with other people pursuing, Slowify. I would say Our Rich Journey YouTubers, they share like how they're living in Portugal and they've retired and, how they're building generational wealth along the way. I would say those are my top. And then there's a lot of people on Instagram that I could say like there's a whole community. Like Yo Quiero Dinero, there's Dillian the Money Coach, like there's so many people that are sharing their like being very authentic with their journeys too.
And someone just asked what they said. My phone cut out when Dannielle said her slow FI number. So maybe what is your FI number? I'm not sure we discussed that too
No,
much.
no, I don't think we did. It is 1 million, 1.25. So I don't know what my slow FI number, but my Coast fire number is 275.
Cool. And then someone said, yes, Our Rich Journey. Do you listen to BP Money? They introduced
Bigger
me to.
Pockets. Yes, I do actually.
Yeah.
I don't know, Apple Podcasts like freaked out 2 months ago and I haven't really like been on the app in that long. So I like switched over to Spotify and I haven't added them, but yes, I have listened to Bigger Pockets Money and just the general Bigger Pockets podcast because who knows, real estate investing might be in my future.
Cool. Yeah, so somebody said, what was the one you suggested? Yo Quiero Dinero. That is, she's on on Apple Podcasts too, right?
Yeah, and Spotify and also on IG. Yeah.
Cool. Great. And then, yeah, I don't know if I cut you off. Did you mention all your favorite resources?
Yeah, those were the ones I could think of. There's so many.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my top.
Cool. And then where could people find you?
I'm on Instagram. I post somewhere almost daily, whether it's my stories or my feed. That's kind of like where you'll find me talking about what's happening in my life. And then there's YouTube. I release a new video every Wednesday. So there's a new video out today. But yeah, those are my two places I hang out.
Perfect. And did I miss any questions throughout our chat today? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't know if you've missed any questions, but I think that like we covered it. I mean, I think I'm really excited that you're doing this. And I think other people seeing that like it doesn't have to be like just one way is really going to help a lot of people like just change their mindset around like what they're reaching and really think about if they're enjoying the life that they're living right now and in what ways they can implement things to get more in fulfillment from your daily life. Because it shouldn't just be like I wake up, I do something I don't like, and then I go to sleep.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For too long, at least. Like there's pockets where sacrifice is needed, but it's not like the great thing about FIRE is that there's milestones, right, that you can leverage to take things slow eventually. And I know for myself, before Slow FI, it was, I was just all the way to FIRE, and then I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to take it all the way to lean. And now I'm thinking like I'm already coast. Like maybe I could just like I don't know, maybe do it sooner than later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. It was a pleasure having you. I do want to open this up to any other questions. I know we have a few people on, so if you do have questions for Dannielle, please drop them in the comments and we'll answer. Oh, someone said, is that a Frida picture on the wall?
Yeah, that is my boyfriend.
Oh.
He's being supportive and watching this. Yes, it is Frida. I love that painting. I relate to it a lot because she's like cutting her hair. And, you know, in the Latinx community, I don't know if it's similar, like growing up, if you experienced this, but it was always long hair is beautiful. Like you would never want to cut your hair, but sometimes you just want to say like, F that, like I'm going to cut my hair. Like hair will grow back. Like it doesn't mean that I'm not beautiful because I have short hair. So that's why I got that picture.
I didn't know that was like a Latinx thing.
Maybe it's an everything thing. I don't know. My mom is Ecuadorian and very traditional in that sense. So yeah.
Yeah, no, my dad's Mexican too, and he's definitely prefers a long. I wasn't allowed to cut my hair. I remember the first time I cut my hair. And yeah, I definitely felt like a rebel.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, well, thank you so much again, Dannielle, for being here and sharing your financial goals with us. All the best with your upcoming potential sabbatical. We want to know all the deets, and we'll follow you to hear more.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Anita. I really enjoyed it.
Of course. Have a good evening.
Bye.